Hello and welcome to 2025 on Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Man, I had to pause there for a minute to make sure I was getting the date right.
I know. It's surreal.
I can't believe it's 2025 already, mostly because I just do the math and I'm like, oh God, I'm that old now.
I know. Like, the 80s were 45 years ago.
Oh,
what?
Don't remind me.
That was like 5 years ago.
I'm like watching a movie like Beetlejuice, which I went back and rewatched because I saw Beetlejuice, and I was not really impressed.
No.
And I was like, I remember the original being pretty fun. I wonder if it holds up today. And I watched it, and I was like, hell yeah, it still holds up today. It's a good little movie. And then I'm like, that would qualify as a classic now.
Oh, I know. It's wild.
Like for me in the 80s.
I know. It's like when we were watching The Wizard of Oz. You know, it's like the same. It's pretty
like,
much the same thing.
Almost the same year span, right? Except it was more dramatic difference. You got to admit, our classics were black and white.
I guess.
You know, at least these classics. I don't know how kids view them now because, you know, without that.
They don't.
Oh, well, that's true. They don't watch them.
I was just talking about this with Alan yesterday. I said, think about how different the world is. Like when we were growing up, you know, we had cable TV. So when I was really little, I think we had like maybe 10 channels or something like that. And then, you know, when I was a kid, I think we got cable and we had like 40 channels.
So exciting.
That was the only screen you had, first of all. And then, you know, there's a chance that maybe you could find something that you wanted to watch on MTV or cartoons or something, but you had very limited options unless you had a VCR. And so then we just ended up watching the same things over and over and over again. And I have so many favorite movies that I virtually have memorized because we watched them so many times. Why would kids today do that?
Right.
There's no necessity for it.
Why would
there's always something new and fresh for them to watch at their fingertips. So it's just an entirely different culture. It's crazy.
Why would adults today do that?
Right.
I mean, I find myself in the same boat, right? I don't rewatch movies anymore.
No.
Just the old classics that I love and want to revisit. But even that, it's like you're just constantly tantalized by the new stuff coming out.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's stuff that we watched over and over again when we were kids. If we hadn't, I don't know that we would now.
True.
I don't, you know, I used to always rewatch TV series over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I've watched Buffy and Friends, and I still watch The Golden Girls pretty much every single day.
Really? Oh my God.
But yeah, pretty much every day. I think it's one of the best shows that there's ever been. It's so smart.
It's still
and like
good,
it's crazy. You watch it. They were so ahead of their time that watching it today, it feels like it could have been, aside from the fact that they're presenting 50-something-year-old women as though they are elderly, like old. It very much stands up today. But getting off the point, I still watch modern shows, but I don't rewatch them.
Yeah.
You know, I watch them once and one and done, and it's over. Mm-hmm. And we also consume it so differently.
Yeah.
Like, my mother will watch entire seasons of a show in one sitting. Alan and I at least spread it out so we watch one episode a night, but then you still get through a whole season. Plus, back in our day, TV shows would do like 27 episodes a season. Now it's like 8. And you have to wait like 2 or 3 years between seasons.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's entirely different. 2025 is wild.
I think of it like music, too. Music's sold as singles now. Like, the album exists, but I don't think it means anything to anybody.
I think music videos still exist. I think.
Yeah,
I don't even know.
Maybe, but I don't think people talk about them like we used to talk about them and love them. I'm not sure the care... Well, I shouldn't speak out what I don't know about. But, you know, I just remember buying an album because I heard that one song on the radio by that band that I thought absolutely killed.
Right.
You'd get the album, and initially you'd be like, oh, not all their songs are that great. Then you'd be like, yeah, but I bought the album, so I guess I'll listen to it. And, you know, it's in your car for a while.
Yep.
And then after a while, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like, you know,
right.
the music needed time to marinate and grow on you. And pretty soon, there's all kinds of stuff you love about it. And we just, with whether it's music, whether it's movies, I do wonder how people are going to experience this, like you said, thanks to the delivery medium now, you know? And then who knows what's coming in the future? You know, maybe we're going to be walking inside songs and movies, you know?
Who knows?
Customization. That's where it's at.
It's nuts. It's funny. All of these things that we're talking about are not irrelevant to the film that we've chosen.
Not at all.
Which is called Antisocial. And I didn't realize I wasn't, I just put it on. I didn't look up anything about it. It wasn't until after I watched it that I realized that it came out in 2013.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
It makes a little more sense that this movie is over 10 years old. I don't know. Look, like, I don't think I can save the big twist. I think I just have to put it out there right at the beginning, because I told Alan, I'm like, okay, so it's a movie about how Facebook turns us into mean, hateful zombies. He said, how's that a movie? That's just real life. And I said, I know. Like that's why I say that it makes more sense that it came out in 2013. Like, the idea now, it just seems almost quaint. Like, oh, isn't that cute? Like, like, haha, like social media makes us awful people. Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, we live in 2025. We know this. This is not social commentary. This is just
Exactly.
We know.
Next movie, is about how it snows in the winter or something, I mean, it's just... It's true. And it's kind of quaint in a way. I'm trying to place myself back because I always get my dates wrong. And, it's everything always happened later than I thought it happened. I think about YouTube. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I was, it's somewhere in my mind. I might have been using YouTube in college. And I'm like, nope. Then I'm thinking, oh, no, but when I graduated from college and I moved to Japan and I was working there, I went on YouTube to pass the time. And I'm thinking, no, we didn't have YouTube then either. That was like 2000, or at least we might have had it, but it wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So it's like, I get all this wrong. And so I'm having a trouble placing myself in 2013 because this movie, its portrayal of social media is kind of quaint and dated too.
Yeah, it's obviously just, it's not about, but it centers around this social media platform.
Yeah.
I said Facebook. They don't really call it that. What do they call it? Like Red something?
The social red room, which is so weird. Like, I thought, come up with a better name than that.
Well, it looks more like MySpace than Facebook.
Yeah.
So, like, it shows its age in that way. Okay, so that's not the Facebook, or excuse me, that's not the platform that I currently use. But I get it. I understand how social media works. So,
Dang, we're not that old.
in fact, the thing that makes this distinctly different is that when they are looking at this social media, they are actually seeing posts, videos, and pictures and messages from people.
Yeah.
When I'm on social media, I don't see any of that.
No,
like, I don't see...
Not anymore.
I see virtually nothing from my friends and contacts. It's all ads. It's all stupid fucking memes posted by bots that
Yeah.
I hate social media.
I know.
I hate it.
Watching this movie almost made you pine for the early days of social media in a way, just because it was so personal. And actually, for the first, 5-10 minutes of this movie, I was on board with the concept. I'm like, okay, this could be cool. Because, okay, so I selected this movie out of a list of, a very scant list of New Year's films that we haven't gotten to yet. It's highly likely it was recommended by somebody, but that name is lost to time.
Right, sure.
It's also possible I just pulled it off a list and just added it to ours real quick because I was feeling particularly, ambitious that day. But, I went back before I said, hey, let's do it this year, and saw, okay, 2013, it's fairly modern, so that's going to be kind of fun. And, the write-up on IMDb is 5 university friends gathered at a house party to ring in the new year, and unbeknownst to them, an epidemic has erupted outside, causing outbreaks around the world. And I thought, okay, that's maybe also a little relevant with the whole post-COVID era,
right.
Or it's just going to be kind of a zombie type film or whatever. I thought, okay, yeah, this will be fun at the very least. And like I said, for the first 5-10 minutes or so, I was pretty on board with it, and I thought, okay, this is going to be some interesting social commentary because we have this woman Sam. Well, I don't know. There is a pre-credit scene, right? Or credit scene, we probably...
like cold open, right?
Yeah, let me get back to that later. But first of all, after the cold open, we see Sam, and she is sitting there looking dejected, I think at her school or something like that. She's college age, right? I think all these people are college age. It's always hard to tell.
Yeah, I think so.
And she's got her laptop open, again, quaint, and she's checking her social page, and she sees her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's name is... what was his name?
Dan.
He comes in toward the end.
Oh, does he? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Because she gets on the video chat with him, I'm pretty sure, to tell him she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And the second that he gets on, he's like,
"It's cool.
I'm sorry, what's cool?
I feel like you want to take a break. Okay, I get it. I'm down with that. I was actually thinking about the same thing. Might do us both some good. I'll call you later.
Dan.
Wait, like
Bye.
she didn't suggest that at all. And like he doesn't even like allow her to respond. He's like, it's cool, I get it. Okay, I gotta go. And so then he just hangs up and immediately changes his status on his stupid social media.
Yeah, that was hilarious and sad and douchey, and I was right on board with it. I'm like, okay, this is going to be... Because also she's a little alarmed, too, because before she starts the call with him, she sees on his page that some girl that she doesn't know has posted, like, thanks for a great night last night, hope to do it again.
Right.
And then she sees the girl walking in the background, but he kind of like brushes it off like, oh, no, that's like my roommate's friend or whatever. You know, it's this whole play on our public lives and has social media and, you know, having everything kind of out there and how that barrier of technology between our relationships, you know, becomes a bit of a problem more than it brings us together. And I thought, okay, I can get on board with this. I'm curious to see, knowing that it's called Antisocial, I assume the site is going to be incorporated into this somehow. But to tell you the truth, the way that the site was incorporated into it was A, very on the nose, and B, kind of ridiculous.
I don't know. I mean, I get it. I get it. Sure, you know, use your typical zombie movie, but make social media the culprit or whatever. That's fine. I just didn't find it particularly... Like, basically what it comes down to is it's just a zombie movie. Basically, there are some interesting things that I'll give it credit for, but especially in the beginning, you know, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary for us to see young people checking their social media, communicating via FaceTime or whatever. That's common. That doesn't have to be a central focus. That's just part of everyday life. So the fact that they created this whole social network or whatever, I figured it was going to play into it somehow. But basically, it's this group of young people, sexy young people.
Yep, another sexy young people movie.
Having a party, and then shit starts to go down. What I'm trying to get at is it's very typical.
Yeah.
We, the audience, start to hear snippets of things on the television or on the radio or online that the characters aren't paying any attention to.
Yeah.
But things are going on outside. Something bad is happening outside. And it's the typical stuff that you always see in these types of movies. You know, it's the typical, not to this degree, but it's Anna in Anna and the Apocalypse walking down the street with her earphones on, oblivious to the world falling apart around her. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah, it's also the Simon Pegg's character in Shaun of the Dead, you know, which did it so
Exactly.
hilariously, right? It was a gag in that movie. So, in fact, I think there's at least one Shaun of the Dead reference in this movie.
Maybe, who knows? But it's fairly typical, and it's not even unbelievable. You know, this is happening over the course of a couple hours. They are isolated. They're at a house party. They're a small group.
Yeah.
So it doesn't impact them for a while until it does.
Right.
And then when it does, it basically just becomes your typical zombie thing. Like, oh, obviously people are getting infected with something. How are they getting infected? Are we infected? Are you infected? Who's infected? What do we do? And it stays like that for a while. And that's really glossing over it a lot because I don't know how else to approach it.
Well, it's...
I could tell you in more detail, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, right down to the names. We've got like Sam, Mark, Jed, Steve, Chad, Brian, Dan.
Caitlin, the most generic names.
All the most generic names possible in what ends up being, I think, the most generic movie situation possible. She goes over there to kind of cheer herself up. Well, her friend Mark is there.
Oh, my God.
There's the goofy guy, Jed.
It's a little bit annoying in that way. Like, the characters, they have like one trait. Sam is the kind of serious, skeptical, pregnant one who was, for reasons unknown, dating a total dillhole who now has dumped her. But she has this amazing best friend named Mark who is just quietly, desperately in love with her. Like, oh my God.
And super gorgeous.
Grow up. Like, well, yeah, like he's handsome and masculine and like he is the, you know, he is going to take care of her and he's going to protect her. And he's just in love with her. But, you know, he's just been pining from afar while she's She's been getting knocked up by this dirtbag. It's so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's just stupid because it's typical.
I know. And there's the goofy one, Jed, who then later on becomes
the smart one.
I want to say the paranoid, but I mean, he's paranoid, but it's smart to be paranoid. Caitlin's the ditzy, slutty one. I mean, she's almost exactly like the blonde from Cabin in the Woods. It's so stereotypical, and she has a sexy, hot black boyfriend, and they're just all over each other all the time. They were my favorite. At least they were fun.
They were fun. Yeah, because, after everybody kind of has their little mini drama, and it's not a lot of drama, they're all friends, we just get introduced to them, we see that they're partying, yada, yada. And then Steve and his girlfriend, that was Caitlin again, retreat up to the bedroom upstairs, and she starts putting on a sexy show, and he's recording her on his phone.
And it's hot, and they're both hot, so I liked that part.
I liked that part, too. I was waiting for it to go further. It was quite nice. But anyway, so then, in the meantime, like you said, they're starting to notice downstairs some things on the news. And another quaint thing about this movie is that they get maybe even more of their information ultimately from the television than from their devices. And all of the information they're getting from their devices only seems to come from like one or two sources, one of which is the live stream of a friend of theirs. It was a friend of theirs, right?
I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about the girl? Are you talking about the girl or the guy?
Oh, yeah, the guy. You're right. There's the guy.
Brian.
He's not live streaming. He's just constantly calling his friend to give him updates, which I thought was really dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, something bad's happening. Let me call my best friend and tell him all about it and show it to him.
Oh, my God, there's zombies right behind me.
Sorry, got to hang up and go. Then he's like, all right, I'm back. Let me show you this other strange thing. Oh, it's coming after me. Gotta go. I'm just like, what the hell? Anyway, so that's happening. But then there's the scene, the girl that we saw in the cold open. Cold open I kind of like, too.
Yes.
I thought it was intriguing.
Yeah.
And again, I was curious to see where this went as a commentary on stuff, because we're seeing a live stream, like a vlog. They called it a vlog, which is also dated. This girl with her friend, and they're going to show something off. I don't remember what it was, right?
Right. I don't know if they're doing a makeup tutorial or an unboxing or whatever, but it's, these videos that all adolescent children watch and make. Like, it's just so weird, Todd. I feel so old and so out of it.
I know.
I have it in my notes that I felt like at this point they were trying, the commentary that they were trying to provide was, how do you keep in touch with people if you aren't on social media?
Right.
It's such an essential thing. That's how they're getting... It's not how they're getting all their media. I mean, they do have, the television, the news is on and stuff like that, but most of it's coming from online. I feel like this movie is trying to make commentary on something that is very worthy of discussion. I just feel like looking at it through a 2013 lens, it just seems so basic. Like, there's no nuance to it.
You mean a 2025 lens?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Now looking at it from our perspective, it just looks kind of quaint and silly. Like, we get it.
We've gotten it for a long time.
Now, right, it seems much more nuanced and potentially maybe even more pressing. I don't know. Like that thing that I just said, like, without social media, how do people keep in touch? We did to an extent, and we didn't. Do you remember? Many of our listeners will not remember a time when we were not all immediately connected to each other all the time.
Right.
You could go for hours or days with no connection aside from the people that you were physically in contact with.
Yeah.
I mean, we always had telephones. People were always just a phone call away, but we didn't have
the need.
We weren't keeping tabs on everybody every second of the fucking day. And I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
I don't like it either. I think to a certain degree it infantilizes us, like it's almost just like we're kids again and we're always being watched by someone.
Yes.
And we're always answering to other people, and we're always showing off and oh, look at this thing, or like, you feel like you've got to continually respond. There's that aspect to it. And then there's the other aspect of, like, when you have too much of something, it starts to feel meaningless, right? And so those times, when we do communicate collectively, they all just feel very basic and almost like, what's the point? It's just the idea of the connection more than the actual stuff that you do. And maybe there's some value in that, to play some devil's advocate. Maybe the idea that we are more connected. outweighs sort of the, the medium outweighs the message, even though all we're doing is like, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. Hey, what's up? Hey, check out this picture I just took. Oh yeah, whatever, or like that's kind of just chatter that we never used to do. And I remember early in social media thinking, who the hell cares about that shit? When Facebook and MySpace were on and people were posting photos of their breakfast and stuff, and I'm like,
right.
Why would I ever be compelled to take a picture of my food and share it with somebody else? And now I do it all the time.
Just because you can.
Yeah, not because it's any smarter now. It's just,
I know.
it's the thing we do. And so we slip into those patterns. And they're not good. They're not good. I mean, for the most part, I don't think they've contributed well to our current society, honestly. Oh, collectively.
I think sometime, and God, this is so like old man chatter. It's so annoying.
How many listeners are we going to lose by this moment right here?
I don't know. Of course, I enjoy all the benefits of modern technology, but I pine for a simpler time. I mean, my God, I just can't imagine. Can you imagine if there had been cell phones, like if the way that cell phones exist today, that everybody had one and there's a camera and a video camera on every single one of them when we were in college? Can you imagine?
Oh
my life would have been so wildly different.
Yeah.
Because I would have been afraid. There are so many things that I wouldn't have done for fear that somebody would have been videotaping it or taking pictures. I did some crazy shit.
I know. Me too. And I go back and forth because there's a part of me that wishes I had more record of that time period. Like, I wish I had been able to snap a few more pictures in high school. From time to time, I'd have a disposable camera. I had a film camera, but I hardly ever thought to bring it out or use it, except for the prom or some weekend trip or something like that. And then, you got to be judicious with your photos because you only got either 12 or 24 in there. And half of them don't turn out great anyway. So, I've got very little comparatively record. On the other hand, like you said, really glad that I had a relative degree of anonymity and had the freedom to make mistakes and screw up.
Absolutely. And do stupid shit.
Yes.
I did such stupid things.
Too.
And I'm glad. It was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah.
But even the culture, I just feel like the culture has changed. Like, yeah, some of us every once in a while would carry around a disposable camera or whatever. Or maybe, if we were bougie, like, a digital camera or whatever. But even then, I feel like there was kind of a social expectation that you either wouldn't take pictures of people in compromising situations, at least not your friends.
Yeah.
Or if you did, you were going to be the only one who saw it. It's not like you snap a picture and it immediately goes on the internet for the world to see.
How tacky would it have been if some shit went down on the street and your first instinct was to whip your camera out and take a picture of it?
You would have been such a dick.
Let alone share it, but even in the moment. And now we're doing it so much that we're quite cavalier about it, and I don't like it. But we get in these pockets of acceptance. Like here in China, everybody's got their phone out everywhere, videotaping and taking pictures of absolutely everything. It took me a while to get used to it, and I still find it kind of annoying. And I also hate how it invades my privacy on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
To the point where I will hide my face or literally tell people, don't do it.
Well, I mean, being a celebrity and
oh, yeah, well, just please stop. Keep the paparazzi away from me. But it's just, you don't have to be a celebrity. You could be a normal person and just, I don't know, because you're white in China or because you have a cool shirt on or something or because something weird happened, whatever. It's always a shock when I bounce back and forth between the States and here and see how that's different and go to other places. So it's not even the same society-wide. I don't know where I'm going with that. It's just a weird world now. And this movie speaks to that, beginnings of that, yeah.
It does. And we'll get back to it immediately. The last thing that I wanted to say is my school, I've probably mentioned it before, has followed the worldwide trend of banning cell phones during the school day.
Thank God.
Yeah, it has made a world of difference.
I bet you've literally seen just night and day difference in your classroom.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a cure-all for everything. Of course, there's still apathy and, all kinds of problems, but removing that distraction has made a world of difference in not okay. So they do better academically because they're not as distracted by phones. By the way, I want to be perfectly clear that I am just as addicted to my phone and my technology as anybody else.
Same here.
I am not putting any. I get it. It's a problem. Like
it's a problem for all of us.
Happy about it, but it's true. Yeah, I'm always distracted. I'm always telling myself, put down your stupid phone, pick up a book, and I don't. But not just academically, but socially, they talk to each other. Like when they were allowed to have cell phones whenever they wanted, they were in them all the time. Now that they can't have them all the time, they talk to each other.
That's amazing.
Like the cafeteria, a lot of schools are still allowing them to have their phones at lunchtime. We are not, and I think that is the right choice because you see them in the cafeteria now, sitting at tables with one another, conversing with one another, not just everybody with their face in their lap. It's so much better.
Well, I wanted to add to that too. It creates empathy.
Getting to know people. Yeah.
Getting to know people, getting to empathize with them and see them as people instead of a profile pic or a person behind.
An avatar.
Yeah. Like there is a world of difference in how we treat each other when we're texting each other on the phone or we're posting on their comments and when we're face to face with them. There still is.
I think that there was room for this movie to explore that more, and it doesn't really. I wish that it did.
It doesn't. It's kind of a one-trick pony in this way.
Right, because, again, I don't know. It hits all of the zombie movie plot points. They keep hearing things on TV. They start to pick up on that a little bit. That one guy, Jed or whatever his name is in contact with his friend in the dorm, and there's weird things going on in the dorm, and they're hearing that people are infected and that people are being attacked and there's violence and blah, blah, blah. And eventually a zombie breaks in the door. So that there's a violent threat from the outside. And these are like black fluid coming out of their holes, angry, mindless zombies.
Like rage zombies. Because the symptoms, which they hear on the screen downstairs while Steve and his girlfriend are upstairs playing, is that, you will start bleeding from your nose and you'll start bleeding from your ears and then you'll start seeing visions.
Yeah.
And then you turn. So they're kind of hearing this and getting alarmed and seeing crazy things happening outside. And upstairs, and this kind of irritated me. I didn't understand this bit. But a zombie, like you said, literally breaks in on Steve and Caitlin upstairs, breaks his way through the door, starts to fight with them. Steve has to throw him around and stuff like that, eventually backs him out into there's like a little ledge out there.
Yeah, balcony,
and kind of throws him off the edge. I mean, you wouldn't even say he threw him off. It's just like the situation, the guy falls backwards off the balcony and falls on the ground. And the others who come upstairs are so judgmental of Steve. What did you do? He's dead.
He attacked them.
Some of them are backing away, but even Steve himself is like, I swear I didn't mean to kill him. I'm like, dude, who cares? The guy attacked you. I know it's disturbing that he's dead now, but you don't need to be so apologetic, and your friends don't need to be treating you now like you're like this killer has been unleashed. That was so weird how that scene played out.
Then it's almost immediately that I feel like he goes into the bathroom to clean himself up or something. Steve, he is bleeding. He's bleeding from his nose. He's bleeding from his ears. And like you said, I think they've already heard about the symptoms. So he understands what's happening to him. And then he gets a phone call from an unknown number and he answers it and tentacles come out of the phone. And I have a big question mark there. I guess it wasn't maybe at that point we didn't know that hallucinations were part of it.
Yeah.
I also don't really understand the hallucination.
It's weird.
Apart from this typical stuff. Okay, so another symptom is that they do start hallucinating, and they hallucinate similar things. It's tentacle-like things. He's infected. Eventually, he zombies out. Caitlin is infected, too. She has a hallucination about pulling a long tentacle out of
her mouth, and then picking up a pair of scissors and cutting it. And I thought, she's going to actually cut her tongue. That's what I thought. That was a missed opportunity because she just wakes up from her hallucination where she neither has cut her tongue nor is she even holding scissors. I don't know what she was doing while everybody else in the room was just kind of standing around.
Right.
Did they not see her freaking out? Or was her freaking out in her head as well? All of that was quite unclear because while people are having these visions, other people in the room are not always reacting.
Right. if I remember correctly, I just watched it yesterday. If I remember correctly, it's almost as though the other people in the room either freeze or just keep going on as though the person who's having the hallucinations isn't even there.
Yeah.
It's very strange. And eventually the hallucinations get more specific. But what I was trying to get to is it's about, I would say, I don't know, halfway, 2/3 of the way through the movie, we are led to believe. and I think that we are predisposed to believe that people are infected and become zombies through the exchange of bodily fluids, as is typically the case.
Right.
You know, you get bit, you get blood in your mouth, then you become a zombie. We are led to believe that. That turns out not to be the case.
Right.
It turns out to be if you look at Facebook, then you become a zombie.
Oh.
And one of the only reasons that Sam has not turned is because after her douchey boyfriend dumped her and changed his status, she deleted her account. So she hasn't looked at it.
She deleted the whole app from her phone, to which Jed then said, "Oh, I'm glad you finally did that. Me too."
Okay, I missed that one.
Yeah, and that was not lost on me pretty early on, because I was kind of like, all right. Because Steve does, before he gets the weird phone call, he's looking at his phone, Red Room social account, and the screen glitches a little bit. So like you said, you don't know what this is, and it might all just be part of his vision, but it does turn out that just looking at it, I guess, at the right time.
I have no idea. I was getting to that question because I don't remember. And maybe I would need to go back and watch it again. I probably will, because I think I've seen this at least 2 other times.
Oh, God.
But it took me like halfway into it before I was like, I've seen this.
Oh, I wondered. This seems like the kind of movie you would have put in and played in the background and probably barely noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have several times. But I don't remember, maybe I can remember Caitlin looking at it. But I don't remember Steve looking at it.
I do. He did.
So he does? Does he look at it like after he films her?
No. He was like going to the bathroom. He doesn't actually start bleeding until he's had that vision. He walks away from the group. He's kind of dazed after the whole incident. They're all still staring at the window, worried about Steve the killer and arguing about whether or not they're going to call the cops, when he pulls out his phone and looks at it, and that's when it glitches. He gets the weird call.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that whole deal. So, and honestly, like, let's just say it. So the screen glitches, and apparently it puts a worm in your brain.
It's an algorithm. I mean, this is dumb too. Like
it's so dumb.
see on TV that the Mark Zuckerberg of this Red Room has been assassinated in the streets, and people are like, "It's your fault. It's your fault."
Mm-hmm.
But then later, Brian, the guy who keeps FaceTiming them or whatever, is like, "Oh my God, you got to see this. It just got released or whatever." And he plays this video, and it's the guy, the Mark Zuckerberg, before he gets killed, and he's like,
"You have to believe me when I tell you that the social red room is to blame. It is the cause for this whole epidemic. For the past 3 years, we have been running a subliminal pattern underneath our website, trying to get users to visit the website more frequently. It was impossible for us to track the billions of users, so we created a program to do it for us."
We're supposed to believe this?
Now, this is the reason why you feel the need to add more photos, to update statuses, to browse more often. And the update that we released this morning, well, that is highly more addictive.
like it's so on the nose, you know, like, this is exactly what these guys are doing.
Right.
It just doesn't literally drive us crazy, or does it?
I mean, you could say there's high metaphor going on here, but honestly, the way that the concept plays out is kind of dumb, right? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'll go along with it for the sake of the movie. Hell, there's a lot of dumb shit that we love and enjoy that we just go along with, especially in this genre. But it was particularly dumb, you know, the idea that they had this algorithm that with their latest update went a bit too far and put a virus in your brain, which then drove you crazy.
God, so stupid.
I guess maybe turn you against each other. Maybe that's like the metaphor carried out completely. But then the physicality of it, I felt was put in place simply to give them what was supposed to be a shocking moment, which is eventually the same friend is like, oh, now you got to see this. He calls back 10 minutes later and he's like, all right, man, now you got to see this video. And this is, we'll get to that in a second, but like, this is just the other part that had me rolling the eyes, is that all of their information was coming from this one guy who would call in every 10 minutes to give them new information. And they'd be like, oh no, I got to go. I'll call you later.
Yeah.
and hang
right.
up.
Until he eventually gives them that last piece of information before propping up his laptop with the camera facing him so that we can see when he jumps off the building to avoid the zombies.
Yes.
Like,
what?
really?
And I felt like that was supposed to be such an emotional moment because they really take a long time with Jed. This is Jed's friend. And he is like devastated by this. And there's a whole pause in the action for Jed to like put his head in his hands and cry, and the music's swelling. And I'm like, okay, just another victim. I didn't realize I was supposed to have, a strong connection to this character. I honestly didn't have a strong connection to any character in this movie.
No.
None of it was particularly well acted. Some of it was well acted. I thought
it was fine. The acting was fine.
It was okay, but I thought the guy who played Mark was probably the best of the bunch.
He was fine. I thought the girl who played Sam was fine. I thought they were all fine. I just thought it wasn't a particularly good movie. It wasn't particularly well written. Before we get to that last video, which sets up the end, which is so stupid. The one thing that I thought was cool, but I'm really not sure I understand, like eventually Steve goes full zombie and kind of attacks them, and then Caitlin starts to show signs, so they tie her up with Christmas lights. Mark is afraid that Sam is infected because she throws up, but that's just because she's pregnant, because pregnant women just barf all day,
time.
and that's how you know they're pregnant.
Yeah, we know it from movies.
We talked about it a million times. If a woman throws up, she is 100% pregnant without question. The end.
Yeah.
But the thing that I thought was cool, but maybe you can explain to me because I don't really understand it, is one of the hallucinations that they have, aside from like hallucinations of weird tentacles coming out of them, is they see a bunch of black and white dead people huddled up together facing away from them. Now, I really thought that was striking imagery.
Yeah.
And the cut away from their normal perception of, just normal in color stuff to this very dreary, all in blacks and blues and grays, these dead people not moving, but looking, I don't know, like grave zombies kind of, but with their backs turned. And they kind of, I think that those hordes speak to them and tell them things and tell them to do things. Now, I'm not entirely clear on what this is, except for towards the end, we've already talked about the Zuckerberg character talking, and he said something about how now everybody's connected. But, like, it's not just connected via social media, but, like, they have, through this impulse or virus or whatever they put out there, people are now connected like a hive mind.
I thought maybe that was what they were talking about, or that they were now like connected in death, because there was a bit of a join us sort of deal with the Chad bit. Yeah, I was a little confused by that, but I got the general sense that was the idea they were going after. Like either some kind of hive mind, like now we're all zombies together and we're all connected all the time, right? Because this thing in our brain.
Right, and join us, the people who aren't part of it, they're trying to lure them in. I guess especially the people that have been infected, but that doesn't really make any sense either, because they make that out as though it's an eventual process that's inevitable. Yeah. Once you're infected, it's inevitable. Here's where they get the new tape, okay? This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's not black and white. It's like computer green video of a doctor in scrubs and gloves, but like in a basement. And there's a woman with her head strapped to like the back of a chair.
I have so much to say about this.
And he's talking, and he's like,
this virus attacks the amygdala area of the brain, which stimulates an overproduction of cells, which creates a new kind of brain in the form of a tumor. This is to accommodate the overwhelming number of new signals the brain is receiving from others infected by the socialredroom.com. It is this increase in brain mass that is causing these hallucinations.
So here's what you need to do. You need to slice right into their skull, right above something. I don't know. He directed them somewhere. It's right
above their eye.
Slice into there. And then get out your drill from the garage. And without any anesthetic or anything, drill a hole in their skull. Don't go too far. And then once you've drilled that hole right there in that spot, a tumor will poke out.
And you grab that thing.
and you grab it.
And you pull it out.
And you pull it out.
And it looks like this.
And then it's fine. Now listen, I'm no doctor. I do know that in terribly dire situations when people have a brain injury and pressure is building, fluid is building on their brain, you can relieve that pressure by drilling a hole in the skull. It can be done. Would I ever do it? Absolutely not.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. You are going to just have to die the regular way because I am not going to drill a hole in your
head and make you die that way. This was like an early iteration of the YouTube how-to videos, I feel like. This movie was very ahead of its time. But honestly, I just thought this whole thing was dumb. Because, look, it's a horror movie. It doesn't have to be that realistic. But if you're going to try to make this, like, science-y, don't make the science so outlandishly stupid. Okay, this image that flashes on the screen, this algorithm, I suppose, programs your brain to create this little wormy tumor.
Tumor?
Does these things. Okay.
Well, and then it's a tumor, but really it's
not.
When
it's
they pull it out, it's not.
It's like a little twig.
It's like the tentacles that they've been hallucinating about. It's like a weird little tentacle. Now, again, not a doctor, but as I understand it, tumors grow on things, right? Like,
well, you can have a brain
like
tumor.
They're attached, like.
You know, a brain tumor grows inside your brain.
But wouldn't it be attached to your brain? Like,
yeah.
You wouldn't just pull it
You wouldn't just pull it out.
off.
Yeah, of course. But, you know, this is a fast-acting tumor, my man. This thing happened, you know, grows real quick.
I know. It's a Facebook tumor.
But he's all... It's grown faster than any of us wanted, to be honest. The real-life one. But he also happens to mention a very important fact. And he's like, now, if you're having hallucinations, it's already too late.
It's too late.
This isn't going to save you. How he gets all this information in the course of
last hour.
Yeah, it's really hard to know. But I guess, you know, when you really think this through, it is quite ridiculous that this guy was like, I wonder if this could be a tumor in their prenatal cortex. Let me grab this nearby drill and find out. Oh, thank God it was correct. Let me make a video about this and share it with the world. All within an hour and a half tops. Not going to happen. But also, I take issue with the idea that you strap the patient down, just use a belt or something like that. Like, that makes your head immobile enough for you to drill into it.
For somebody to drill a goddamn hole in it?
I saw myself under that belt, and I was like, no, that belt is not holding me down.
No, absolutely not. Eventually, that's what happens. Like, Sam goes bad, and they have to kill him, and they feel guilty. Like, they have a whole existential thing, like, that wasn't really Sam, right? Like, oh, God, get over it. He was trying to kill you. And then the hot girlfriend, Caitlin, goes bad, and they tie her up, and eventually she goes really bad and almost gets Sam. And then she ends up getting thrown over the banister and hung by the Christmas lights.
I liked some variety. I thought that was nice to have a little variety in the dispatching with that, because it was all starting to just feel so... I was honestly losing interest in the movie at least halfway through. Part of it was due to the pacing. I thought the pacing was really slow. I thought this movie, if it had been edited more exciting and quicker, probably would have been 20 minutes shorter, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels more like a short, frankly. It could have been, eliminate some of these characters, make it 3 people, 2 people, whatever. Because eventually then it's just like the movie knows that it needs to wrap up. So I think that Jed, who has been the one who is most paranoid about people being infected and whatnot, is it just because he sees his internet friend jump off the building that pushes him over the edge, and
it's so dumb.
Opens a window just so he can like axe a zombie because he's mad or something.
Yeah, and then he turns around.
And then he just stands with his back to the window.
Yeah, and then the hands come out, grab him, and pull him out. And again, I felt like they were going for an image here. They're going for this typical scene, but it was so clunkily forced into this that I just rolling my eyes at that bit.
They needed to get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly, because we got to get down to the last two.
Yeah.
You know, because this is smitten Mark and our hero Sam, and she's pregnant.
This
and
was another thing that I know.
Oh God, he said he's going to take care of her.
But this was another thing that made me so mad. Yeah, he said he's going to take care of her. And she's like, you're the one who's always been there for me. You can't leave me now. Like, he is telling her, I'm for sure infected. And she's like, no, you're not. He's like, no, I really am. For sure. He's like, no, you're not. He's like, yeah, I am. And like this goes on for like 5 minutes. Like they have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
And she just keeps but you were always there for me and you can't leave me now and you'll be okay. And he's like, no, for sure I'm dying. But then I don't know. The zombies get in, I guess, and that forces them down into the cellar. And they're down there. Now, again, here is something else that I am unclear on because they're down there, they see the video, and she's like, we have to do it. You have to drill a hole in my head. And he's like, no. And she's like, yes, you have to. He's like, okay. So there's a drill down there, and he straps her head down, and he cuts into her head, and like he's getting ready to do it when their friend who we haven't mentioned, there was another douchey friend, Chad. They had a douchey friend, Chad, who was at the party with them, but then he left for some reason. And then when he came back, he was obviously infected and they wouldn't let him in. Okay, so we assume that he's dead. So now, while Mark is preparing to drill a hole in her head, Chad shows up again and starts talking to him and is like, don't do it, don't join us, we'll all be together or something. And I am thinking, oh, he's having those dead people hallucinations again, as he has been throughout.
We're led to believe that, yeah. This is when he's saying the whole join us, the whole hive mind thing, and so it all tracked, right? Okay, this is his hallucination. It's one of those other of the mob of people that people are hallucinating. I think he even turns the other direction. He's hallucinating the mob. And he turns around and sees Chad up next to him. The movie literally wants us to believe that that's what's happening so they can surprise us with the twist that, no, Chad's really there.
Yeah, and he is. And then they fight. But right before it's revealed that he's really there, he says,
how we're all connected now. Everyone knows everything about you. And you know everything about everyone else.
Now, this is, I think, the message. You know, the movie is trying to drive home this message about social media and all of this stuff. But that really struck me.
Right.
Everyone knows everything about you and you know everything about everyone else. Because that, I think, is somewhat of the perception of social media. And it is 100% false. We know nothing about each other.
Yeah.
We know the sliver of what we choose to put out there for public consumption.
Yep.
If you think that you know somebody based on what they're putting out on their social media, I think you're wrong.
Yeah, you're a bit naive in that. You know, we curate.
Absolutely.
And we often, I mean, I'm not saying all of us try to put the best of ourselves out there. Some people deliberately try to like gain sympathy on social media. So they're putting out like, you know, other stuff. But in general, yeah. And that's one big reason why I don't post anymore, to be honest with you, because
I don't either, really.
I also don't want people to look at my life and compare it to theirs in any way, shape, or form. I just don't.
I share those things now with smaller groups of people, like in group chats. Like, you know, I have a work friend group chat, and I've got family group chats where we will share thoughts and conversation, but pictures
privately.
And things.
Yeah.
Right, but not just putting it out there for the world.
Exactly.
I hope that maybe we're shifting more towards that, and I think that we are.
We are.
And I think that's good. I think we all need to pull back a little bit.
But you're right. That was always false, and the very fact that that is the perception that is false is a big part of the problem too. Not to get too deep into all this, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. We all kind of know this by now, but just the fact that we curate these perfect lives for us cause other people who are depressed to get more depressed about their lives because they don't think they measure up. And it causes all these problems that are based on false premise. Mm-hmm. And social media just accelerates that and amplifies it and broadcasts it all around. And and encourages us to be participants. I kind of make it sound to be a very sick social experiment. This was nobody's idea. It just sort of evolved and became that way, and nobody expected it,
Right.
to get this way. But that's what we're confronted with now. And it is kind of cool to see the movie at least tried to stick that little bit in there to complete their little analogy.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, again, this movie came out in 2013. It's not a new idea, but it is something that is still relevant today. I do think that social media in particular, but just media in general, just that we are not only are we inundated with media from every direction, but there's so much of it that most of us, myself included, I'm not pointing fingers, establish our own silos of information. And myself included, I think, we often get tunnel vision about certain things. It's just, again, I pine for a simpler time, but that's not the world that we live in. And so hopefully we can learn to make good use of the technology that we have and not allow it to totally destroy us as a society, as this movie suggests, because yes, Chad is really there, and then he kills Mark, I think, but then Sam kills him with a laptop.
That's right.
Like chops the top part of his head off with a laptop, which was funny. She kills the bad zombie, and then she drills the thing out of her own head. Now, I find this to be... this is difficult for me. I don't know that a person would even be physically capable of doing... I certainly wouldn't. I don't know, but whatever. She drills a hole in her head. She pulls the thing out.
You haven't seen Pi, have you?
No, I haven't.
Talking about a modern classic. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it could be done, but it does feel a little... I don't know. They're kind of going for that whole Saw thing where you kind of have to do the most desperate thing.
Right. And, okay, so maybe it's physically possible. I don't know. But she drills that thing out of her head. Okay, so now she has a hole in her head, and she just ties it up with a little bandage.
Yes.
Again, not a doctor. I don't know. Maybe you just put a Band-Aid on that hole to your brain. I don't know.
Good enough for now.
But whatever. She's fine, and a zombie gets in, and she chops it up with an axe, and then the camera blurs, and she collapses, and she wakes up downstairs, and it's daylight, and she goes outside and is walking down the street, dragging her axe through an outdoor hellscape. Planes are crashing, buildings are exploding, everything is, devastated. And on the news, they're saying... We forgot to mention that eventually that tumor will get so big that it will explode your head. And we've seen it happen.
Yeah.
But apparently, after your head explodes, then you come back to life. And that is what is happening. All of the dead that are laying around are coming back to life and surrounding her.
Okay.
And it's just like she's standing there with her axe, holding it like she's ready to fight this horde of zombies that is surrounding her. Which, fine. All right.
Sequel time.
It's an interesting...
Yeah.
Did you know there is a sequel?
I did. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I didn't even care to click through to it. That sounds so bad, but...
Yeah, I didn't even know there was until about 5 minutes before we got on. And so I watched the trailer on YouTube, and it follows her, it follows Sam, and I guess they're still kind of in this zombie apocalypse, and apparently she says she meets a young girl. She hooks up with this other young girl. In the trailer, she says, "I'm looking for my son. They took him from me when he was born."
Oh.
So apparently this is years later, and she's looking for her son. I have no idea what that's all about, and I'm not going to find out because I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to dog on a movie, period, and I hate to dog on it too much because this director, Cody Callahan, it was his first feature film. And for a first feature, it's good. I mean, it's competently filmed.
It is fine.
There's nothing wrong about the craftsmanship of it, really, except for, the story elements we mentioned and the writing. Mostly just the writing, I would say. And the pacing. I say the writing and the pacing are probably the two things going against this movie. But also just in general, it's just kind of generic. At times it felt like an episode of a low-budget TV show, that kind of comes and goes for 2 seasons on some streaming network. There wasn't enough novelty here to keep my interest. There wasn't enough characterization here to keep me invested in what was happening, and some of it was so darn cliche, and then, like we said, it gets kind of ridiculous, and I just like, it's kind of hard for me to enjoy this movie anymore because I can't really take much of it seriously, and not in a good way, just kind of in a, this is kind of boring way. I was literally bored.
It's fine.
I was bored halfway through.
Yeah, I was bored. I was kind of bored too. It's fine. It's not great. It's not awful. It's not awful. Like I said, I think I've seen it before. I think I've put it on in the background more than once. If you can't find anything else to watch, it's not like you're going to kick yourself about wasting your own time. It's fine.
Yeah.
Just don't go into it thinking it's going to be anything particularly great or special. I personally don't think it is, but it is certainly not awful. We have watched far worse movies. It's watchable. It's just, like you said, not maybe in 2013 it would have felt more fresh. I don't know. But in 2025 it doesn't. Whatever. That's just kind of how I feel about walking away from it. Whatever.
Oh, God. I hope this isn't an omen for the coming year.
Oh, God.
And maybe it means only good things are going to come from here on out.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on this new year. We hope your start to 2025 is a good one. We're very excited about what's in store for us this year. Patreon.com/Chainsaw Podcast. This is no better time to join. We got stuff behind the scenes. It's just been building and accumulating. Lots of minisodes up there. We've got a book club going, and we're going to kick back off in 2025 after a little bit of a break. Also, just reach us on that evil, horrible social media. We've got an evil Facebook page, an evil X account. I'm sure they will give you a brain virus. Just a quick search on the evil Google will get you there too. Just look for Two Guys in a Chainsaw Podcast. For that alone, we are at least grateful for this ability to get in more direct contact with you guys.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With Two Guys in a Chainsaw.